Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Matthew Thorokan, National Chair for U.S. Alumni Chapters of Loyola College. Along with us, our international alumni is supposed to join. He said he will be here in a few minutes, Marcy. And we have 4 chapters here in U.S. and it was inaugurated in September 2018 during the visit of Father A.M. Jayapati. Hopefully that you all remember that. This is the second webinar today, and I have the honor to introduce our own Loyolite, Maria Radhika Albert from California, which is called the Golden State. Her professional background includes she was a professor at Loyola College between 2002 and 2003 in statistics department, worked at corporate and foreign missions post in Chennai, and she was a community college professor in the US for the past 10 years, teaching mathematics and statistics courses. Have taught a full-time online universities, University of California, and currently teaching at Mercer College in California. We have another webinar coming up on, that will be our 3rd webinar on August 22nd. So stay tuned on that one. That will be Mr. Anthony Jeevarajan. He is NASA's divisional chief in the biomedical research department. So I welcome Radhika, Maria Radhika, to this webinar. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Thanks for the kind and lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. This is Maria here. I go by Maria or Radhika, doesn't matter. And I hope you're all fine with first name basis here, right? Okay. Yes. Just making it clear. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. It is a willful act. There are a few people I threatened to show up today, but most of you took it by invitation. So thank you for that. And I appreciate you taking the time this morning on a Saturday. So I appreciate that. I'll try to, the way I've structured this is, we'll have some content. When I say some, I just mean 3 slides worth of content. But we'll make it interactive. So there will be a breakout room and maybe 3 polls, just to get the feel of the crowd. And then I have, thanks to the registration, we had some questions there. So I kind of compiled those questions so that we could go over some of them to make it more relevant for this particular group. And I think that makes sense, isn't it? So that's something I've planned. Let's see how it goes. So we're starting 10 minutes into the start time. So hopefully we'll take 1 hour from now. I hope that's fine with everyone. And we have Gauri here, who has graciously agreed to monitor the chat. So if you had any questions or if you wanted to seek any clarification and you feel that you don't want to interrupt me for some reason, feel free to write to him. And he can convey it to me. So I do have the slide that I'll start sharing now. So let's see. Please let me know if you can see the slide.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So our topic here would be education during COVID times and beyond. Again, education is such a broad topic, and I appreciate you all being here because some of you may not directly be in the education field. So, you're probably curious about how this works. Some of you may have children who are, undergoing these times in terms of distance learning. They could be some of you who are yourselves students. So it's going to affect us in one way or the other, I presume. So let's go ahead. Now, what I have here is we'll start with a quick poll, I would say. Okay. So this poll is on conditions of education. So what happens is the poll questions are all anonymous. So don't worry about any of your personal information coming through. So, be yourself. Just click on the option you think is appropriate. And I'm going to launch the poll now. Let me see if it works at your end. Can you see the poll on your screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. If you could take a moment to respond to it. We actually had 30 who registered for this webinar. We only have 13 now, so we won't get the full gist of the group yet, but this is good enough to kind of feel for it. I don't know who, but we have 2 more who are waiting to respond, so we'll just give it a few seconds. If you want to grab a cup of coffee, go for it. I already had 3 this morning. You know, while this is going on, I live in a very rural area here. So this is Central California. It's completely rural. I can actually see the cows and the chickens going by. So anyway, so because of that, I woke up way early in the morning. Not something that I desired, but I think I woke up at around 4:30 or so for no good reason, and all because the chickens were clucking. So, well, some of you don't have that problem, I know. All right, I think we have a couple of people who haven't responded yet. No problem. I will end the poll now and share the results. Can you see the results?
Yes.
You are such a positive bunch. Okay, you all said it changed for the better. Okay, I think that concludes our webinar then. Okay, let me stop sharing and close the window. Okay, is it gone out of you, the poll?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so what we saw was most of us feel it changed for the better. There could be plenty of reasons. Okay, it could be the generation we are from. It could be, you know, our preferences or what we saw, or even our location, you know, because of our experiences based on our location. So, so now I have another quick poll just to see where we are. Okay, so I promise you there won't be too many polls. And in this poll, we want to kind of also understand which generation we come from. Again, this is anonymous, so the poll is in progress now. Choose the year of birth to respond to this. Interesting. If you chose Gen Z, we know you're lying. Okay.
It's anonymous, so we have the privilege of lying. You won't know.
That's right.
She will
I
find
know
out
someone lied.
eventually.
I won't know who lied. Good for you.
She will eventually find out.
Yes, yes. I mean, your looks may betray me. I might think that you are, but yes, I'm just relying completely on math here. Okay, you must be 20 years old, which means you just finished college. You couldn't be an alumni joining here already, I would assume, but never know. All right, perfect. So I will end the poll now and share the results. Hope you can see the results. Look at that. Majority comes from Gen X, right? We do have a few from the other eras. So just because it's majority does not mean that, you know, it's representative, but it gives us an idea, I feel, right? An idea of how we are thinking about this. So I myself am Gen X. So what I'm thinking is, you know, let me stop sharing the results. I'll speak for Gen X, okay? Now, the thing is, I'm not trying to speak anything here that you don't already know. It's just a way of sharing insights. So I hope you'll bear with me when I share insights about my experience here. Now for Gen X, most of us, we were kind of the transitional age, okay? Again, I'm talking from a middle class perspective, lower to middle class perspective. And most of us in Gen X had our parents working, first generation of working parents. We were kind of the first generation to probably go into English medium of education. My parents went for Tamil medium, so I'm in English medium, so I was raised that way. What else? We were the kind of the first ones to take over computers, right? We were the first ones to explore computers. So, and in fact, for that matter, we were kind of first ones to travel across our nations. And some of you moved here way earlier, I understand. But for the purposes of work and kind of, it was kind of like a mass migration. So many of us moved. So because of all these transitional stages for us, it seems like we have upped ourselves and improved ourselves over time, and have become really cautious about what's happening around us. We're very aware of our surroundings, and therefore, if most of us felt that education has changed for the better, I feel it's because we have seen and moved along with the improvements. Okay, so in that context, I'd like to kind of connect education to 21st century learners. Okay, if you're alive, that means you're a 21st century person, and every person is a learner, I would believe. We are all lifelong learners. For that reason, we are either learning through practice or through resistance, right? We resist certain things too. So we learn that way as well. And meaning we learn about our preferences, we learn what things we can't get along, what things are absolutely needed. For instance, my mother has learned to adapt to WhatsApp, and she can use all these things now pretty conveniently. A generation who never saw or never used a computer literally. Okay, they never turned on a computer, but they can switch to these things very quickly. So you can see how 21st century learners kind of adapt to these things. Therefore, from a general educational perspective, I would like you to, I'd like to assign you randomly into groups, because right now, it's terrible to be passive listeners, someone talking and the rest of you listening. So I want to give you a chance to kind of break into these rooms and chat with your group. So this is what you'll be talking about. Okay, we'll reserve introductions for later, perhaps. So just introduce your name and just get into the response to this question. It says, what do you think are essential qualities for 21st century learners? Okay, now, we're all adults here, so I'm not going to come back and check if you did the work or not. If you chose to chit chat, that's fine with me. But what I'm saying is, if you can jot down, these qualities that you and in your team you came up with, when we go through the next slide, I suppose so.
Yeah, all for
If somebody's left in that room, that is a different thing.
Yes, I unlocked the room, so everybody should be back.
with the exception to I think everyone else is here. Like I think we had like 15 maybe.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
they had to leave and then
Jude had to
back.
leave the meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So I hope you had a nice discussion, though short. I hope it was something you were able to discuss. So I do have some, bubbles here that will come up in this slide. And as each bubble comes up, I'd like one of you to volunteer to read it. And we'll take turns. Each participant can read a new one. And you can cross-verify with what you discussed to see if these were the things that you were thinking about, or if there were anything else, then we can discuss that too. Yeah. So, can someone read this?
I'll do that.
Encounters with great literature.
Okay, thank you. So then, ask yourself if, both as a learner and as an educator, as a parent, grandparent, some of you, what was the last time you actually read a great literature? Okay. When I say literature, I'm not meaning Chanda Mama, Tinkle, magazines, Reader's Digest. I don't mean that, right? So I'm talking something like, Ponniyin Selvan, or did you read Pride and Prejudice? You know, those kind of things. Did you read works of literature? What it does is when we read literature, it really transports us to that era, and it's all through power of words. So words are powerful because that is the only thing, I would say, of course, with reason and other things, the only thing that distinguishes us from other beings, from other species, where we're able to speak, to communicate. We don't have to bark or scream, some do, but we don't have to do all that to communicate. Like for instance, goats, because I'm in the rural area, we have goats here, and goats communicate by staring at you. But for humans, that's rude, right? So the whole idea of communication is made powerful through words. So do we have close encounters? When was the last time you kicked back in a chair and sat, you know, in a cool shade under a tree and opened up a book and read it for the joy of reading? So that is what might make you a well-rounded 21st century learner. I know we have Kindle and all these books, but there is a joy in hugging a book, right? So do you have any notebooks lying around like this? Or do you just have constant, should you be constantly fed by technology to give you information? So that is important. We'll go to the next one. Someone?
I mean, from my perspective, when close encounters with great literature, I'm not talking about the next point yet. Okay. So now it is more of tidbits. No one has time to read the book. They want tidbits information. They want to embrace technology, and they want to see, okay, what can I do to maximize? I don't want the blah, blah, blahs, even though they had wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely.
They
just want the climax, right? They don't want to go through the motions.
Yes, give me the ending, yeah.
It's about, you know, in literature, what happens is they describe the scenario that you have your imagination. I remember as a child, I used to read Enid Blyton books, but I also used to read, took a liking to Danielle Steele's books, and all her stories settings were in San Francisco. So I had my own imagination because of the way she would describe it. She wrote books based on 1906 earthquake and all that. So, you know, that was a different era. But I imagine when I actually got the chance to visit, I was pleasantly surprised that my imagination was very close to reality. And when I put my when I stepped into the Pacific Ocean for the first time, wow, this is something I learned in school. You know, that exhilaration comes only when you have, you know, great literature. So you're right.
Maria Radhika, I just want to point out that when you say close encounters with great literature, it's not necessarily only hardbound books, right? Because we're talking about the 21st century reader. Learner. I'm talking about technology like Audible, you know. I mean, even if you want to read a literature book, you don't necessarily need to go and go to a library and buy the book or pick up a book. You can always go into Audible, download the book and read it and listen to it, like, you know. So I think it's today that as being a 21st century learner, technology has advanced so much that, you know, you experience the same thing but in a different way. It's
Absolutely.
not necessarily. I would say for my child, you know, my child likes to, you know, he doesn't have patience to sit down with a Harry Potter book and listen to it. So we downloaded the books in Audible, and he would listen to it, you know, whenever he has time or whenever he wants to listen. He would switch on Audible, and Audible would.
It goes with the preference of the learner too. I understand, but I would like to. These were, by the way, these are points from Dr. Ravich. She was an educational practitioner, and she worked for many governments. She was not politically, you know, aligned to any party, but she worked for the education department, whichever one was in was ruling. So these are ones that's coming from her, and so there is the point I'm trying to put across is there is some value in embracing books. Okay? The ability to speak, write, and read English well, yes, it's absolutely important. Thankfully, we have that backing, right? We have that background where we have been taught in the English medium of education, at least in the college level. Some of us, in my own family, my own husband, you know, they studied in the Tamil medium. So the first time they actually got to communicate in English was in college. So it must have been a steep learning curve. But today we need that. And thankfully, with all the technology around, we have a way to, you know, develop our language much better if we can make use of the tools. Right? Someone for this?
An understanding of history, civics, geography, mathematics, and science.
Perfect. So a quick overview on this one. I appreciate these subjects, but I believe this is a little limiting, but this is my personal opinion. It's a little limiting because I tend to compare with classical education. These are things that we began to pay attention to once we kind of got European education as mainstream. But if you go back to classical education or methodology, really, they were learning about rhetoric, logic, grammar, ethics, philosophy, astronomy, sciences, of course, mathematics there. So, you know, they were great thinkers because they had this wholesome view. They looked at everything from all different angles. And today we have very limited subjects. Nobody learns about these things unless they go into advanced studies, right? So, but then I'm glad that we have these basic understanding, especially history. Today we want to erase history because it's unpleasant or distasteful. But on the contrary, that kind of history should remain because that will tell us not to repeat it. So education will have to be balanced there, the way we see it. All right, the next one.
Social skills to collaborate fruitfully with others.
Okay, thank you. So yes, social skills, we kind of understand that, you know. Right now, yes, we're not able to be sociable in the COVID situation. But again, this is a limited situation, but once we are outside this, we will need the social skills. But right now too, we need the social skills, meaning the etiquette, right? Online etiquette. So we're talking big about that. How do we behave in an online? Now, automatically, you all muted yourselves because you knew that that would be a bad etiquette to have your microphone on. So nobody had to tell us, but we did learn this initially by keeping it on. And people were talking and we could hear one another. We could hear the dog barking in the background. And then we found, oh my, that's irritating. Oh, that's because my microphone is on. And then we learned about that. And now it's become natural, right? So quickly do we learn. So we have these social etiquettes, yes. And we've learned to collaborate online like this. So for a 21st century learner, technology has really, really helped us in these current times. So, so the whole idea is, are you using these skills to fruitfully work with someone, or are we using these skills to attack someone or, you know, be rude to someone just because of the anonymity that online world provides, right? So social media and all that, we see that that's the case sometimes. People hide behind their screens, and we don't even know who they are because they have these you know, all false names, IDs, that we have no clue who this person is and what they mean. So they don't have sometimes the honesty to speak what they speak by showing their true self. So social skills to collaborate fruitfully. The next one.
A love of learning.
A love of learning. Wonderful. Thanks, Satish. It's the love of learning, you know, the love of learning. I don't think I ever had that in school. Okay. We were like grudgingly going to school. Yes. Honestly, after our educational period, because we were trying to focus on obtaining a degree. So our focus was based on that. But now, you know, you go after things to learn. So do we develop a love for learning just for the sheer joy of it, you know, without always looking for some kind of result? You know, meaning are we learning just because we'll get a certificate or a badge or some kind of recognition? Or are we able to learn for the love of it, for the sake of it? So that's really something we need to think about as a 21st century learner.
Yeah, I think that era has passed. Love of learning, I mean, working for like studying or putting our asses for just certificate, I don't think anyone does that now. I think they are doing it for themselves or to be better, to have that additional edge over others. I think that saying the certificate panirla, okay, let's just do it, it'll be a good thing for us.
Yes.
No, I don't think that is what is happening now. In the past, yes, you always were looking for like, okay, I need to be certified. I need to get this. I need to get this. So I'll do this. It doesn't matter what my scores are. But now, I think if anyone is doing that, I think it is they are cheating themselves if it is for a certificate. I don't know.
I think both are there actually. Yes, it is to get the certificate and go up, as well as love for both things are there. Actually, there is a balance between that. And the people who are struggling, who want to go up, definitely they are basically looking for how to get their certificates. And once they achieve a certain level, then yes, it is love for learning which takes them above. So after that level, it is love for learning only. But they have to come to some level where they are thinking, getting those degrees, getting the certificates, and then proceed from there.
Right.
See, for the love of learning, all the doctors who come to me for learning ultrasound, I have a one-day course to the one whole week course. So they mainly come for their continuing. Say I spent 5 days with Sean, but what is the proof? So the love of learning, because they want to learn something new, like how to do echocardiology or how to do vascular technology. But when they go back to their bosses and to the medical license bureau, they show that I spent 40 hours hands-on training and theory, and I got the certificate. So that is going to many doctors are sent to my school just to get the CMEs to practice medicine. Okay, so it works both ways. They want to learn, at the same time, they need proof that they learned something. So it goes hand in hand.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for your comment, Sean. I understand that's always there. We need to have some kind of, but from my understanding of love learning, it's just learning something, learning to play an instrument, learning to learn a new language, maybe learning to love travel. It could be in so many other ways that do not necessarily result in some kind of a proof for having done that. The proof is in the pudding. They have to, if they learn something, they should be able to play it, be able to bring it out. So that's the next point, actually, engagement in the arts. So they kind of go together, love for learning is kind of broad. Engagement in arts, it reminds me of Leonardo da Vinci. He was amazing in the sense that he had many dimensions to him, right? So he was a sculptor, an artist. He was great in mathematics, in biology, physics. So, he drew the first anatomy. He got the first helicopter, the idea of helicopter. He had the first hydraulic idea. So he had all these things, but he kind of engaged in arts to kind of push through that idea. I read somewhere, I need to verify this, but I read somewhere that he would write in mirror image his notes. So you'll have to hold a mirror to actually read his notes. And that was his way of kind of beating plagiarism, I suppose, so that now people wouldn't, misappropriate his findings. So I thought that was really neat. He was such a genius. But he used arts because it's a visual way of presenting these things, and it makes things so much more clear. And when I say arts, it's again not just confined to the drawing, painting. It's fine arts and all kind of arts, right? So we got that. Do we have the next bubble? Yeah, here it is. Let's go for this. Someone?
More readers, okay.
Yeah.
Gain insight
into timeless dilemmas and the human condition.
Wonderful. Gain insight into timeless dilemmas and human condition. So this, to some extent, is looking at history, civics, current affairs, everything. So when we talk about learners, adult learners, we kind of tend to keep track of maybe current affairs, but do we do that for our children too? Do our children really like to know what's happening in the world around them? So for which they have to have the ability to go back to read from history, learn from history, what happens. There are times when we watch documentaries at home just to kind of expose our children to what had happened in the past, the good things and the bad things. And so, it's really important that we understand the human condition, because we tend to live in a very isolated way, to the point where right now, I don't think anybody in this group is below poverty line, right? So we have subconsciously or even unconsciously distanced ourselves from the actual reality of human condition. When we visit, I'm from Chennai, so when I visit Chennai, and down the street, if I see platform dwellers, my children and I, we both get stunned, but my children more so, because they haven't seen poverty directly face to face. They've seen it in pictures. They've seen it in these promotional flyers where they're asking for donations and all that, but they didn't see that. And so, we would, we as parents and as educators, it's important for them to be connected to that reality. So then what, to make it short, what we did was, we said, okay, we can't change everybody's lives, but we can learn at least to understand what they're going through. So we stopped taking Ola, and I wouldn't say stop taking, but for distances that were walkable, we would just walk. We wouldn't really take any vehicle to travel. And that way they could actually walk filthy streets, stinky streets, whatever, get exposed, because this is a reality in which people live. In the US, we drive in the cars, so we have no idea what people are going through. So that's something I think we need as 21st century learners. We don't have to always be thinking forward in future and think only futuristic ideas exist. We need to look back from the past from which we came and understand that there are two worlds there, the haves and the have-nots.
Can I comment on the last one?
Oh, sure.
No, this is very, very important, because most of the kids born in the United States, I used to take my children at least once every 2 years to India.
Mm-hmm.
And they love India. I'm not kidding. Even now, right now, if you buy them a ticket, they will be in Chennai tomorrow. So I just wanted to show them where we came from. You know what I mean? Like, I never had TV, no air conditioning, right? No fridge, till I left India in this is in 1973. So I want them to understand, where we came from, and they appreciate a lot. And, they like to help the poor and things like that. And we have to show them everything starts at home. We have to teach them, the goods and the bads.
Right
Okay.
on, you hit the nail on the head, because it's absolutely important. That's that consciousness, as you said, charity begins at home. You begin everything at home. If we can't expect schooling or the world to teach our children what we are responsible for teaching them, whether they take it up from us or not, they are individuals. So down the line, it probably will resonate with them, but it's important that we do this. I kind of skipped two of the bubbles, so I'll just go to them. Ethical and moral character. We were just talking about that, right? One of the ways of shaping consciousness is of course, exposing to the human condition, but knowing morality and ethical outlook for life. Because today it's all murky, right? The line is so thin, you can easily cross over, and you have a lot of gray areas. They say, oh, they can never be truly black or white, it's always gray. Agreed to some point, but there are some things, that beyond religion, for us, because of our Indian background, most of us take religion very seriously, and so that is a very guiding, a factor for us in our lives. But for those who are not so inclined, thankfully, by our creation, we have this moral law encoded, embedded within ourselves. Sometimes we see it as consciousness, sometimes it comes through our thinking. So it's really important to build that character, because when everything is stripped of us, what really stands is our core belief. And what is it that we believe in? So that's something we need to think about. We need to ask our children to think about. We don't have to push it to them. They have to discover it on their own for it to stick. Mastery of a foreign language. I think most of us here, for us, English is the second language, unless you're from an Anglo-Indian background or other similar ones. But it seems like English is more like a first language now.
First language, yeah.
Tamil is, or whatever, our native language has been pushed behind, right?
And many Americans don't know that, we learn everything from kindergarten to college, medicine, law, engineering, everything in English back home in India. Many people don't realize that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In fact, yeah, now it seems like, we need to master this foreign language called Tamil or Telugu or Malayalam. And I think we'll have to learn along with our children. Because right now, our kids tend to, we speak, I'm Tamil, so we speak in Tamil and they listen to it, but they respond in English, right? Most families have that set up. That is not mastery. If our kids can confidently read, write, and speak in that language, it's you can kind of fall under the mastery category. So we do have that set up in our home. So morning half an hour is Tamil class, and I teach them. Previously, I thought I'd dump it on some other software or some other online program, somebody teaching, and maybe they can teach it. But I realized, what is the point if I don't show that passion to my children? And so now they have. In fact, I have the syllabus right here. So we did the Ezhuthu Arimugam, Uyir Ezhuthu, Mei Ezhuthu, Uyir Mei Ezhuthu. We did all that. We've moved to Sorkal, Pear Chol, Udanpaattu, Eval, Vinay Mutru. That's where we are. Okay, it looks really lofty, but what I'm trying to say is, we have that desire to give them what we learned in a formal manner, and I picked all these from our Tamil Nadu Arasu textbooks, the free online books, and also from Singapore Tamil books. So it's amazing what work they've done in Singapore, especially.
Yeah, in University of Texas, University of Texas, they have a Tamil program. One Dr. Gopalakrishnan was the professor. My daughter, not only her, a lot of Americans, Chinese, Filipinos, she took everybody to learn Tamil. And she used to write letters in Tamil every weekend.
Wow. See, now that's really advanced.
And they all acted in a play in the Meenakshi temple here for Pongal festival, and they spoke in Tamil and performed a drama in Tamil.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
I think we have to show them a lot. We still speak to them in Tamil all the time, but it's amazingly funny. Whenever they land in Chennai, somehow or other they speak to all the elders in Tamil, but they never speak back to me.
That's maybe because you don't look old enough. Okay.
No, they didn't want to sort of insult them or anything. That's why they reply back to them in Tamil. To the elders in India, yeah.
No,
yeah, it's
right.
just that, you know what I mean? So no big deal.
Yeah, I was just kidding, but I know that initially they feel shy because of the accent and that comes with the way they speak. But people find that cute, so they are actually okay with that. Eventually.
Oh, they love it. They love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have a self-discipline. Yes, that's something we need to learn. Self-discipline, as the name says, discipline. We tend to think discipline means it's very rigid and there is no room for flexibility. And we think if people are flexible, that means they don't have any discipline. I think what COVID situation now, these kind of virtual meetings have taught us is to be flexible. Like this morning, when we started 10-15 minutes into the session. A sense of flexibility should be there because I'm actually a stickler for time, but it's very important to understand that when we have hiccups like that, we should be flexible, and that's my end. But at your end, you guys were awesome, you're phenomenal, because you were so flexible to re-register. What a pain that would be. But you re-registered and you showed your desire to be here, despite that roadblock. So there was that internal, gauge there that kind of told you, I have signed up for this. If there is a roadblock, I'll get through it. Some people maybe chose not to do that. They said, oh no, this is asking me to register all over again. I don't want to go through this step again. So it just depends on, this is just one example, but this is trivial. It doesn't matter if they didn't show up or not. But what really matters is for more serious things. And each one will have to decide what their self-discipline, code is.
Even if you take 2 points from this webinar or take home, that's going to help you run your life. That is what my thing is.
Oh, that's very kind of you. In fact, that was one of the objectives, to see if we can take away something, you know. So it shouldn't be wasted time for us. So thank you. Personal independence, I don't know, the slide just went a little quicker on the next one, but personal independence is right here. Personal independence, we really have to understand what that is. We should have the independence to think for ourselves, to talk for ourselves, and to write for ourselves and express ourselves and all that. But to what extent? To the extent that you do not invade another person's space. So that is something we have to learn, and that comes from social cues. So you see their social skills to collaborate. Those things are all interconnected. Self-discipline is interconnected. I teach at a community college, so you know, we have kids from all age groups. So it's really, really, I shouldn't say kids, I should say adult learners, because my youngest student was a 9th grader, and my oldest student was 82 years old. Excuse me. So this is the range of students we see, which means they're all learners, and that personal independence really is important when you try to inculcate certain practices, certain discipline for yourself. Sometimes we get students who just listen to music loudly as they walk along the hallway. They don't realize that there are classes in progress, you know, the classes in session and things like that. So sometimes you realize, oh, how come they don't know that? But it's just that, you know, probably they were not made aware of these things. They have not been in circles that objected to it. You know, they were always allowed to do it, perhaps. And so for the first time, when there is a different expectation, then they are stunned. So we need to check for that. And use technology wisely. That was the next point that popped up already. It goes without saying, yes. Decide if something is available both on paper and as on technology, decide which one is sensible for you to use, which one is easy on your eye, which one is easy on your health. You know, if you're constantly, or these days we're constantly, I'm stuck, I'm married to my laptop. So all of us are, right? So if there is a chance for you to do this thing outside a device, why not do it? So use technology wisely, because it's prone to fail many times. And Dr. Ravich mentions about playing a musical instrument. I tried, I couldn't, but I tried. So I can play by ear, maybe, keyboard, but just with one hand, you know. My children can play with both hands, so it feels a little inferior than people who actually know to play, and you play there. But there's joy in playing. So I can play Jana Gana Mana because of the simple tune there and Happy Birthday. But these are good enough, I would think, you know, for that musical instrument. To make up for it, I enjoy music. So I enjoy the sounds of different instruments and all that. So most of us can pick up something. A love for learning could be that you learn to play a musical instrument. I think there was one more. Oh, this is the best part. Make and repair useful objects. Right? I mean, we have so many engineering graduates, speaking from an India perspective. If you stepped out on your street in India and you called out, hey, engineers, and they all come out, you know, you can expect at least 20 to 25 from that street. And you tell them, hey, this bicycle is broken, can you fix it? I doubt if very many can do that, right? So they'll say, oh no, I'm an IT engineer, I am this engineer, that engineer, whatever. You learned your foundation, your basics, right? So engineering basics were more physical in nature, and then you specialized into these things, and maybe right now you're skilled in those things, but the foundational things, useful objects, simple things. You know, we can't fix a bulb, we can't fix a fan, we can't fix a basic plumbing. That means that, you know, we're missing something, and maybe a love for learning could push us to learn about these things and use.
I would like to share my experience about this.
Yes.
When I moved to the US, my son was like around 2 years old. So in the US, most of the work, you know, small things, fixing, even buying your IKEA furniture, you gotta, you know, fix everything. So when you entered preschool, they asked him, what is your father? So he told them he's a carpenter.
Rightly so. They saw you doing all these. That's amazing, isn't it? You made a great point, Prithviram, because we do have to do things on our own here, right?
Call somebody to do all those stuff, right? In US, you can't afford to have call a handyman for everything. You got to fix plumbing to whatever, you know, minor things.
Absolutely. You're so right. You're so right. We have to take care of our own business, right? Initially,
See,
even mowing the lawn and things like that. Everything.
In the olden days, I used to do all the hard work, putting a ceiling fan, blah, 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 plumbing, and, toilets, everything. But whenever it came to electronics like VCR, VCD, DVD, my kids have to put it together and teach me how to use the remote control.
I know. I think it's symbiotic, right? We give them something from the previous era, and they give us something from this era.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good coexistence. I am tracking the time, and I will just move on quickly here. So anyways, educational theorists, practitioners, researchers, policymakers, whatnot, all of them have thought about 21st century skills. We have so many skills. Each one comes up with their own list, and these lists they list literacy skills, life skills, information skills, and so on. But you can see that education-wise, during COVID especially, this comes in really handy. There are 4 C's that this can be collapsed into, all these skills. Okay, so I'm going to list them one by one. Collaborate, we saw that. Communication. This is such a key part of today's COVID situation, communication, right? How do we collect schoolwork? How do we share schoolwork? How do children respond to their assignments? How frequently do they check their classrooms, meaning virtual classrooms? So do they check for the announcements? Are they tracking all these instructions? Because there is no one sitting there physically to give them all these instructions in real time. So communication comes through in 3 ways, I would think. Verbal, written, and non-verbal cues. So during COVID times, because of we're forced to do things virtually, I think all 3 here are very important. Okay, so verbal skills, yes, you should be able to communicate clearly when you have to present a project or something. Yes, that's there. But you also have to have good written skills. Okay? You can't write as you speak. Writing is a skill, it's an art. So you really have to develop that art. And so formal writing is very important. Here we have all these standards, right? MLA writing, APA writing. So you have these standards that you have to maintain for writing. So that is important. Non-verbal cues is the big deal, I feel, because when we speak, the things we do when we speak is very important, right? Are we facing the camera when we speak, meaning are we being listless and looking everywhere around, or are we paying attention, or are we checking other things in the background? Sometimes we listen to the audio and we're checking our email or doing something else or playing a game when we're doing. So all those things really matter, because these are things that will come across, whether we intend or not. There's only so much we can pretend. So watch out for that in communication. Keep it open, keep it clear, keep it frequent when needed, but don't overdo it, right? Don't over push things in your communication. The next C is critical thinking. Critical thinking, Tamil solnana nunnaivu chindane, nunukamaga aivadu. So to research. So today's culture is to search for answers, not research. And that is really, really sad sometimes, but people learn about it and they overcome it over time. But initially students, many of them, they just quickly search for answers. There was a time when we, like for this calculus paper, we worked on it so diligently to create our own exam, and with all the ways in which we can make sure that the student is tested for the learning outcomes within half an hour. That is available on check.com. Right? So we don't think, we just want to share information. We are consumers of information. We're not doers. We just talk the talk. We don't walk the walk. So critical thinking means that you are in the center, but you are bringing yourself out of that center and you're looking at your problem, because that's when you'll have to critically think. So look at your ideas from all around, and look at your possibilities from a 360-degree view, and never be ashamed to point the finger at you if you believe you're at fault. And the last C is creativity. Creativity, most of us were talking, Gauri and Nandini too, we were all talking about how we have adapted creatively to respond to some of the needs. But the other side of creativity is, by definition, it just means, letting go of imagination and reimagining things, right? So do we actually have enough idle time to imagine? Quiet time. Is your mind just free? You're not constantly consuming information by looking at something or watching something or listening to something. Are you just free? Because that's when imagination grows. And for this reason, I like to recall my most favorite. I have many, but this one is really dear to my heart. Dr. Abdul Kalam. He's my Manas Ega Guru. So I really love him because he's a great educator. He was a great statesman, an erudite leader. He's got all these qualities, and yet he was humble. He was just thinking very normally, very ordinarily, but his thinking was critical thinking. He was looking at these social issues from a genuine desire to help himself and those who are entrusted to him. So he has given many creative things, and one of the things he said was, "Kanal Kanangal," dream. So if you don't dream, then you don't really have anything to imagine. And I think I see him always as a father figure, so much so that my father and he passed away one day apart. Tomorrow is my father's anniversary, and day after, Monday is Dr. Kalam's anniversary, their 5th anniversary. So they were. I feel I lost 2 fathers, in a day. Anyways, that is how I feel towards these people. So we have role models, that who are admirable and who have led the way, who have trailblazed for us. So I'll kind of stop there. Chat time. I know we have to wind up. It's 1 minute to spare to make it 1 hour because we started at 8:10. So technically, chat time. I would like to stop sharing here. And if you wouldn't mind, can I stop the recording so that we could have a chat, or do you want the chat to go in the recording? Because your faces will be available on recording. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Stop the recording.
Before we go into the chat, I just wanted to introduce Anthony Jivarajan. He's going to do our next webinar. We just wanted to briefly talk about what he's going to say. And it is going to be good for our family itself, especially for children, to hear about NASA. So I just welcome Anthony to say a few words about the next webinar.
Yeah, I'm planning to give a talk on the human space exploration for the challenges and opportunities. So the timing is kind of good because the July 30th, we have a March 2020 launch. So I will send you some details so you can share the link with your children and adults, and you can learn that thing also what is happening. So going to Mars is our final destination kind of stuff right now for the goal. So in terms of what the human exploration is about in space station, in another 2-3 years in Moon, and another 10 years in Mars, how the whole scenario is. So I will be able to describe and all the associated challenges. So that is my current thinking. If you have any questions, please send it to me so I can address them during my talk also. So thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question: can we bring in our kids to the webinar? The next
anybody for that matter. Yeah. So this is like I can connect the dots actually. So since you're talking about 21st century learner, and Maria was talking about like critical thinking, creativity, and all that. The wonder is one of the thing. Like you wonder, right? So in the night when you step out, you wonder like what is in there. So that is one of the like a initiating thing. For children, it is abundant. So bring anybody and everybody, and then ask them like get questions from the children, and so you can send it to me. So then I can address them appropriately.
Absolutely, we'll be there, Anthony.
What's that?
We will be there.
Oh,
one thing is, I can definitely vouch for Mr. Anthony Jivarajan, because when I was in Houston, I remember Mr. Jivarajan took me to the what do you call that? The space center. And he explained everything so well. That is the time I realized that he's an encyclopedia by himself. How are you, sir? It's been a very long time.
Yeah, thank you, Mercy.
Yeah, how is ma'am? How is she? She's good.
Yeah, Judy's good. Yeah, so she's doing well. Yeah.
Hi, Vasi. How are you?
How are you, Sean, sir? எப்படி இருக்கீங்க?
நல்லா இருக்கேன்.
I still remember Mr. Sean. He used to call me, "Hey, Naina, va pola." It was very good to hear a Tamil person speaking in America that time. I mean, I was with him. I was in his house for 3 to 4 days, and those were the best days of my life. And he was such a good host. I'm very thankful to him. Thank you very much, sir. How is ma'am? How is auntie? She's good.
You guys are doing a wonderful job for the alumni, so I really appreciate it.
Like, how is Chichu? How is Ayyappa?
Chichu is doing good. Ayasami, Vidya, they're all doing fine. Auntie is doing fine.
Good, good. I met auntie when she was in India.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I went a little personal, but let's go on to the chat room.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
So even simple questions like still people ask whether even humans landed on the moon, even a simple questions like that are welcome.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. In fact, I do have a collection of some of the questions that came for the webinar here. And if you don't mind. But before that, do you want the recording to go? Because these questions might be relevant to someone. You're okay with your faces being on the recording?
Hey, Masi, can you extend it for another 10 minutes?
Sir, I'm not the one. I think.
Who's the host? Maria?
Maria can do it.
Yes, I will leave it to Matthew. Meaning we can, the meeting is officially done, but if you want to hang around, we can kind of chat a little bit on the questions.
Yeah, we are up already, so we may as well chat.
I think I have one question. So when we were discussing about the qualities, I'm not able to see something like the fitness, the health, or the mindness, or the mindfulness, something, for the learners. Is it you covered any of their, just your thoughts, Maria?
Absolutely. Thanks, Satish, for bringing that up. Actually, you're right. They don't talk much about that, but actually I collected these questions. So I kind of masked the names of those who actually sent it just for privacy purposes. So there was this question which said, which disciplines are well suited for remote learning? What strategy is good for interdisciplinary collaborative efforts? So I just, your question, Satish, I think it's third in the line, if you don't mind. We'll get to that. So I'll just tie it up. So for this, for remote learning, what we learned, at least from the education field, as far as community college is concerned, we had quite some challenges for two reasons. One was either because of the licensure of the course, and two, because of the very need, like, you have allied health. Because of the community college, we have career technical courses like agriculture, welding, automation, manufacturing, those kind of things. And of course, allied health sciences, right? Radiology, sonography, and all that. So we have all these disciplines which are difficult, not well suited. At least the lab component is not well suited for remote learning. On the other hand, like Anthony mentioned about space travel, we have a lot of videos to kind of give students. Like recently, I saw a video on Sunita Williams's tour of ISS, International Space Station. It was really cool because you really can't travel there now to see it. But I think it's an old video, but it was really, really nice. So that is where I see interdisciplinary collaboration, where, it's not necessarily part of their learning or their syllabus currently, but exposing them to different videos there was helpful. This one said, did you prepare yourself for the comeback? If so, what lesson you learned in the process? I'm not quite clear on what the specific question to me would be, but one thing I learned was to slow down. I have been very clear about my work times. I do not go beyond that. And to answer Satish's question, these are the times when we have actually, stepped out to go walking or do things, indoor games. For the first time, I'm taking pleasure really in playing Uno, Trouble, that game, Pictionary, and all these things. And after a long time, we've really had a hearty laugh as a family, because these are the things we've set aside time for. 5 p.m. Because our jobs afford that, we're able to do it. I know some of you cannot do that, but by 5 p.m. we finish everything. Weekends are for the family. So if we got a busy week, weekends are always reserved for the family, so we don't touch the laptop. So it's a device-free day for us. where we do all these other things. So there are other ways. And also, Satish, I believe there is a site called Kuku Kanga, Kookoo. Maybe I should type it somewhere. Kuku Kanga, where it's for little children, where they try to watch this video and play or dance along. I would say Kuku Kanga. It's flashy. It's like Zumba in an amplified version. Okay. So for fitness purposes, if you cannot leave the house, if you don't have open spaces, if you're in an apartment where you can't really, you don't feel comfortable going out, then that's a good place for you to check it out. Okay. So that was something. How proud are you joining this session with Loyola alumni team members, and what's your future project? At this time, I would like to take a special moment to honor my grand uncle, Father Lawrence Sundaram. I'm the grandniece of Father Lawrence Sundaram. Those of you who've been during his time, you probably know him. And if you didn't, you still will know him because Loyola College has a building named after him. I was very little when we met, and so he's come home many times, but he's spoken to me twice. And one of the times he visited, he said, "Kwaranda ingava," and I went up to him and he said, "You are a gift. Be a gift to others." And he silver potter, he sent us away. So I remember that he said that to us, and that has always resonated in our family, because recently we now have men and women in Loyola College, but previously we had only men's college, right? So all my uncles and aunts, all the ladies went to Stella Maris, all the men went to Loyola College, and they were extra gracious in coming to Stella Maris to take their sisters and cousins back home so that they could make new friends there. So this was I think I'm the only one who did in both places. I studied in Stella Maris, and then I came to Loyola for my master's. So they, the thrill was lost, I think, when they didn't have any need to go all the way to Stella Maris and be that magnanimous people they were trying to be.
I see Sean all the time across the street from Stella Maris in the tea kade.
நாங்கெல்லாம் woodlandsல எப்பவுமே காபி சாப்பிடுவோம். Stella Maris girls-லாம் வந்து எங்களோட சேர்ந்து டிஃபன் சாப்பிடுவாங்க.
Those were the good days, huh?
Hey, in those days, that was the max. You can just sit down and have a coffee. That's it. They won't even go to the movies with this.
Oh, that's asking for a lot.
Yeah.
Like too much trouble.
Too much trouble.
Too much trouble.
You don't need to do all those things nowadays, sir. You get everything in Loyola College today. Have men, boys and the girls there.
Yeah, சும்மா கோவத்தை கிளப்பாது, கம்முனு இருங்க.
True.
Those who didn't have the girls with them and they studied, I think they're feeling a little annoyed now.
அது வந்து காலப்போக்கில் அதெல்லாம் சேஞ்ச் ஆகல. Times change, you see. So you can't feel bad about it, but I still feel that was the best discipline because we learned a lot to respect women. You know what I mean? That was the best teaching. So that carries on for the rest of your life, which is very important.
Great point, a great point. That is so important. We have to raise our men and women, our children alike, teach them to respect one another. And as parents, we need to hug our children and kiss them so they know the love and the hug of a father. A daughter must know the love and hug of a father. A son must know the hug and the embrace of a mother. And that way he will know that he and she will know that when a new person enters their life or tries to influence them, they have these things in their back that will tell them, hey, this feels off, this looks wrong, I don't think there's a right relationship. So I know. So I'm glad that we had great alma mater to learn from.
So I want to say one thing. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is the present.
That's why it's a gift.
The present is two things, and it's the presence and the present from God. So I want to say that because you have to enjoy every day because you don't know what tomorrow brings. So this is a great thing that we come on at least even once a month and talk like this. You know what I mean? Radhika, thank you so much for doing this today. We all appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone here. It's really,
Nandini,
it's really
you're
nice
very
to
quiet.
go back and chit chat. Sorry?
Anthony is very quiet now.
I'm listening. I'm listening to
Marcy,
everybody.
Marcy, any final words, Marcy? College.
It's not like that, but definitely I'd like to invite each and every one of you for the Alumni Day, which is going to be on the 2nd August. I'm sorry it's a little early for you, but we may have to get up a little early so that we get prepared for it. And it's going to be throughout the world. And I'm sure only California is going to miss out. I'm sorry, Radhika, for that. And New Zealand is going to miss it a little. But if you guys can just tune in your alarm a little, I'm sure you can come online. And this year we also have Arvind Swami coming online. We would like to, because he's come back to the college after 30 years. And I had invited him personally to come. And then we have one Sujit Kumar, who's a very inspirational speaker. We have Unni Krishnan and all these people singing for us. Then we have Father Rector, Principal, everybody speaking. So it's going to be a good program. Thank